Barring something shocking happening, I don't know how anyone else keeps up. I was talking not that long ago to an assistant in the SEC about Georgia and sort of their take on um, where the league is at as we barrel into a new reality with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. I was talking with him about what the future of college football will look like, which nobody seems to be able to nail down, including the administrators of the sport and everything else. But it kept coming back to it's going to be really hard to keep up with the Dogs if things don't change. Um, Georgia. Just to recap, if you've been under a rock, and I know a lot of the people that are Alabama folks that watch this have been under a rock lately, or maybe the internet just got turned back on in Montgomery. But Georgia's won two of the last three national championships. It's lost two games, and this is the part that the Bama folks continue to remember. Those two losses were to Alabama. Other than that, they've not lost a game. And I think if you've not noticed this either, Nick Saban left, and that means now that Kirby Smart is one of two coaches in the sport who've won multiple national championships. He will take on the other, Dabo Swinney, who is doing his best to fight the tide here of the sport and has had a tough few years at Clemson. The way that's why I put it. I'm not from Spartanburg, but I do know that it's not gone the way that the folks at Clemson have wanted here lately. And they open up with the Dogs, and they'll be almost a 2 touchdown underdog. So I think if you look at the landscape of things, with Kellen DeBoer leaving UW, going to Bama, Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan, Nick leaving Alabama. And Brian Kelly not yet figuring it out at LSU. Florida looks like as bad a disaster as I've ever seen a major Georgia rival that's not named Georgia Tech. You know, it's the path is right there for the Dogs. Now, who's in the way? Well, I mean, I would say Ohio State is the biggest challenge right now. And when you look at the betting markets, that's what the betting markets say as well. Easy enough for me to say. It's you know, it's not always easy to know what the future will hold. But in the case of Georgia, I think that they're going to be in this playoff, and if past is any indication, they would have been in the playoff no matter what in these last however many since Kirby's taken over. They've never been below the 8 seed. So I just it's hard for me to imagine that they won't be in the playoff every single year. And if you get those guys in the playoff, I'm trying to think of a time when Georgia didn't play well in the college football playoff. And I don't remember a moment in time where they didn't play well. They may have lost. They lost to Alabama in 2017. I don't think they didn't play well in that game necessarily. They played fine. They just lost the game on a miracle play from Alabama. So I would still say it's Ohio State. When you look at, like, for instance, right here, when you look at what's going on in the betting world, I don't know why that screen is popping up rather than another one. Give me a second here. Well, whatever. Let me try to get it straight. When you look at where this team and program and all that are, I mean, like, who is in their way? I mean, is it Alabama? Well, this is just not going to show up. There we go. Jeez. As you can see, Georgia's the betting favorite, plus 300. So their odds have increased slightly to win the national championship in 2024. As you can see as well, Ohio State at 480. Their odds have increased slightly as well. Texas at 700, Oregon at 850, Alabama and LSU right after that. Both those, I mean, Bama and Michigan's odds to win it fell precipitously. And you still have the Rebels in there at 1,500. Florida State, I'm assuming this is their A team. and not their bowl team. And then the Taters at 3,000, along with Tennessee, Missouri, and company. I see Notre Dame in there to get Stephen A. triggered. Yeah, look, the global point of the barring something shocking happening, I don't know how anyone keeps up. Well, shocking can happen. That's one thing I will say is that you just don't ever know what will come in the near future. I mean, right now there's been at least one assistant coach at Georgia who's left to go to the NFL. You certainly could have another leave to be the head coach at Georgia State. That may have happened by the time you watch this video. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that's out there that can change. I mean, Kirby could get sick. Kirby could the Dallas Cowboys could say to Kirby Smart, "Hey, listen, we're completely dysfunctional. Will you come in and help us?" I mean, I don't know. I am skeptical that something like that will happen. With that said, just like at Alabama with Kellen DeBoer, Nick Saban's not the only person that can win at Alabama. But he is the only person that's going to win the way that Nick won at Alabama. Kirby's not the only person that can win at Georgia. I mean, I think that if Steve Sarkisian were at Georgia, if Steve Sarkisian were at Alabama, he would be a good fit. I think Brian Kelly would be good at both places. I'm concerned after what I saw this past season. I mean, I just don't. Well, the past two seasons, I mean, he's just not going to play defense at all. So that's no good. But right now Georgia's the best program in the country, and I think the only folks that can make the argument that they're in the same category is Ohio State. We don't know yet with Auburn. Excuse me, with Auburn, please. With Alabama, we don't know yet with Kellen DeBoer's Alabama. We don't know. I mean, it could be that they're really in position to be pretty good, but we don't know that yet because we've not seen what he's like. We just don't know what the future will be like with him. He looks like he's a really good head coach. He is entering the snake pit of all snake pits. I mean, the guy that is his direct rival his arch rival at Auburn, Gus Malzahn. Oh my gosh, the former Ole Miss head coach. There's no telling what Auburn will do to try to become good again. There's just no telling. You've got Brian Kelly at LSU. At Florida, there could be some change there. Probably Lane Kiffin if things don't. But Lane is at Ole Miss, right now anyway. Is Tennessee in your way? Your biggest problem at Alabama is Georgia. I mean, that's been your biggest problem for a while, right? I mean, who else has won 2 national championships? Nobody. I mean, at the time, Clemson was your biggest, problem, but that's not the case anymore. So I think when you look at Hugh Freeze, can they get can Auburn get Bama every now and then? Can Georgia get Bama every now and then? And it only takes a couple every now and then to knock you out of a season. So that's the problem at Alabama. But the pressure this fall is not going to be. I mean, I think there's always implied pressure at Georgia, Bama, LSU, Texas. The pressure is going to be on Ohio State. It's time for Ryan Day to do it. And that if Georgia were 9 years into Kirby's time there and had not won a national championship yet, there would be a lot of pressure now. Okay, because Nick would have left and all this stuff, but they've won 2. Is that hard to believe? I mean, it's not like it didn't just happen. It did. There's going to be pressure at Ohio State. The longer it goes for Steve Sarkisian at Texas, there will be pressure there. This has become, unfortunately, it depends on who you are. This has become a zero-sum game. You're going to win the national championship or you aren't. Now, is that fair? I don't know if that's fair or not, but it's what it is. And when you're at Georgia, if you're at Bama, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, it is really, are you going to win the national championship? Are you progressing towards a national championship? Are you beating your rival? All of these things are, I think, completely relevant and good questions. And if you are not doing that, then, the folks who have put you in charge, forget the money. The folks who have put you in charge have every right to be upset about you not getting it done. Because at the end of the day, forget the NIL, forget the transfer portal. It's up to that particular coach to do what he has got to do to win. And if, you know, look, Jerry Moorhead was the president at Georgia 10 years ago. And I can assure you, 10 years ago, Georgia's not where it is right now in football. It's just not. So it ain't about Jerry Moorhead, right? Everybody wants to, for lack of a better term, shit on Michael Adams. Look, Georgia itself needed a change. It needed to realize its power, and it needs to do that in basketball, okay, and baseball, and every sport, frankly. But you're the head coach of a particular sport has to be responsible for making sure that administration understands how important their sport is to the institution. That's what happened when Kirby came. He was much more forceful than Mark Richt was. He had a vision. I know from, well, it's hearsay, but I know from people who talked with him while he was at Alabama, he always saw how great Georgia could be. A lot of people, I think, at Georgia over the years just knew where the dead bodies were buried, and they allowed that to get in their way of excellence. And that is a lack of vision. That is at the leadership level. That is at the presidential and board of regents level for not having, for not really going for it, for keeping Mark Fox for 10 years or, stuff like that. So it needs to be that, you're really going for it all the time. And that's the part too that I think is not going to change so long as Kirby is the head coach. He was the right voice at the right time. And I think that what you're seeing now is a direct reflection of that. Mark Richt is an elite head coach, an even better human being, but he had been there for 15 years. He had lost the ear the way that he needed to have it of the folks that were important. And, Kirby Smart, younger, energetic, probably running around laps of, like a little dog ready to party the whole time when he was getting this lead up to him being the head coach at Georgia. There was a lot of new energy at Georgia when Kirby came in. But that is because of him, okay? That's the credit he deserves, is that he changed the perspective of what Georgia could be. There were some people that knew what it could be. And, Mike White and, everybody, I know what Georgia basketball can be. It's just not that yet. And it should be, but it's not. And, you have to want to win. And I think that was something that really changed when Kirby got to Georgia. And I don't think it's going to change so long as he's there. But again, the quote was, barring something shocking happening, I don't know how anybody keeps up. Now, that's a little different than what I've been talking about. So, I think it is going to be hard because Georgia is a fully, Alabama was a machine. Well, that machine has changed dramatically. And it's changed not just because Nick left. This has been going on for a little bit of time at Bama. But, they're going to have to rebuild what they've got. LSU is still dealing with things. Florida, Michigan now will have to change. Washington will have to change. For me, it's Dan Lanning's got to do a better job in big games, but it seems to me like Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and perhaps Texas, and I still think Alabama will matter for sure. Michigan will still matter, not like Alabama will, but all those things matter. But I thought that conversation with that particular person was a very interesting look at what people around the league feel about Kirby Smart, and I think it's true.